Us today. I'm Clara Capano.
And I'm Karissa Adkins.
And we are here to help you gain clarity and boss up to the next level. So are you ready to get real?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That's what we're here about, huh?
Woo.
Well, we've got a fantastic topic today.
I'm stoked.
Yes.
I'm honestly stoked about it. It's been a key to my success,
Absolutely.
probably yours.
Yep, so we
Can't
are
wait to talk
talking
about it.
all about self-care.
Yeah.
You know, this is something that I think so many women just put on the back burner. They always think there's gonna be time to get to it, but it's something that we need to start paying attention to. So we're gonna talk about the benefits of self-care and also going into some tips and tools to actually make it work.
And what is self-care? And ultimately, like, I want to just add to that, it's, self-care is like, it's a long-term thing that pays off. You can't do a one-timer and expect your life to change.
Absolutely.
So we're going to dive into all of those amazing topics and tips and strategies, and we've got a fun special guest for you today. But first, I think we need a drink.
I think a little self-care calls for a little drinky drink. All right, Dion, what are we making over there?
Well, today, ladies, we're going to make an old classic, a mint julep, famous at the Kentucky Derby, but we're going to put a little twist on it.
Okay.
We like a little
I
twist.
know all about self-care, and part of self-care is eating right, and so I like to put healthy food in my cocktails.
Well, that seems very smart.
And that's what we love about you.
All right, so we're going to start out with two different kinds of mint. So basically call it a mint blend. I'm going to do a little peppermint and a little spearmint. Spearmint tends to be a little sweeter. Peppermint is very peppery. And then we're going to do some blueberries because they're really good for you.
Antioxidants.
Yeah.
Good.
Yes.
Brain food.
Yes.
I feel healthier already.
And
All
what
right.
inspired you for this show with this specific cocktail with
Well,
self-care?
this specific cocktail is one of my favorites. One, it's really easy to make for anyone at home. And two, it's one of those cocktails that you can put a bunch of different spins on. So take a blueberry, you could also switch that out with blackberry or raspberry.
Okay.
There's a lot of different variations you can do with this. Two, we're going to use a Knob Creek. It's a barrel select, so it's a little bit hotter in heat. It's actually 120 proof.
Woo! Getting things heated up in her.
And a little bit of homemade blueberry mint syrup.
Ooh.
So I make this myself at home also.
You put that on pancakes, Dion?
You can. I've done it before.
I'm sure.
Just to test.
I love it.
Look at that beautiful color, too.
It's so pretty.
So we're going to go ahead and do that. And then we're going to add our whiskey last. I'm going to go ahead and give this a quick muddle to
Okay.
release all the oils from the mint.
And we learned that last episode that we don't need to, do anything crazy unless there's acid in there. Acid in our
The
drinks.
citrus
Yeah,
and
the
stuff.
citrus.
Absolutely. Then we're going to add a little bit of ice here.
It's a very educational show, Karissa. We are really
Breaking
here
it down.
to serve and educate.
And last but not least, we're going to add our superstar spirit here.
Okay.
Now, mint juleps, God save the queen, are really, really alcohol or spirit forward.
Okay.
It's a better word for it.
Spirit forward. Well, that's how we, make our way to success is we fail forward.
Exactly.
So why not spirit
Spirit
forward?
Forward.
I need to start using that in my regular day-to-day. That is a awesome.
Well, all right, then we're going to go ahead and do a buzzer on that one.
Fail forward.
Dion got his first buzzer.
Oh. And then we're going to pour this over crushed ice. And once we're done, we're going to add a little ice. I wish you guys could see the color. I know we're using traditional Kentucky Derby copper, but it's such a beautiful color here.
And I just love all the different glassware he's bringing in for all of
Yes.
these different drinks. It just
Well, you
makes
guys
it
can
that much
thank-
more festive.
You can thank Laura at Spirit World. She's the owner-operator there, and
Okay.
she provides me with a lot of my glassware.
Nice.
Yet another boss babe.
Was that Lauren?
Laura,
Laura.
I think.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Laura.
We appreciate
But
you.
cheers to Laura when we get our
Cheers,
drink.
yes.
And last but not least, what would a mint julep be without a sprig of mint?
Of course.
Something
The
to-
greens. We
you
need
gotta
the
have a
greens
little
in our
greens
life.
on top.
It's kind of like a salad. Yeah,
The darker the green, the healthier it is.
exactly.
And then there we have our mint juleps. Thanks, ladies. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you, Dion. You're the best.
All right, well, I think we need to do a cheers to Laura for providing us with all the
Yes.
glassware for
Yes.
our blueberry mint julep.
Let's try this. I've never had one of these drinks.
Oh, wow, you can really, get that mint and that blueberry.
I get all whiskey.
Yeah?
Woo! What's Dion doing to me here?
I know, he's generous with these.
My husband would say, put it down.
Yes, so well. Wow,
Oh
another
my gosh.
amazing drink. So again, don't forget, go to the website, livingrealtv.com, and you can grab all these recipes that Dion is making for us. So, we want to do our question. We haven't, done our question yet.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
we want to speak about, nurturing our bodies. We want to talk about self-care. I love to read. Reading is something that I love to do as part of my self-care routine. Has there been a book in your life, whether it's your personal life or your business life, that has really impacted you?
So funny story is I used to hate to read. I always felt very stupid, right? And I was told that I wasn't a great reader growing up, and then to be encouraged to quit high school, and then eventually, I just figured reading and smarts wasn't my thing. And it wasn't until my mentor, she looked at me in her office and she said, Karissa, what's your favorite book? And I was like, I haven't read a book since freshman year, and I think it was Of Mice of Men, which was terrible for me in a sense, because I'm like, why am I doing this? And she said, okay, well, I'm going to give you the book, and it was a Cy Walkman on leadership. Cy Walkman, I forget the name of it, but it was leadership, and I read it, and I remember thinking, while doing a hot bubble bath, but I remember thinking, oh my God, I love to read. And I was like, those people were wrong. I'm a great reader. And then that was really the pivoting moment that I was like, I'm going to read. And I felt so accomplished with every book that I began to, take and read and highlight. I mean, I destroy my books. I don't know about how your books look, but they are highlighted, they're bent. And the biggest, I think, the most impactful book that over the last 10 years that I've read that have really changed my life was Mel Robbins' 5-Second Rule. I'm a huge fan of Mel Robbins, and really she only has a couple major books, I think.
So Mel, if you're out there, we'd love to have you
love
on the show.
Mel, yes, have us on your show. We'll bring you on ours, But the whole idea of the book is, you've got 5 seconds to talk your ass out of something really courageous or to talk yourself into something. And I read that book, and it just sat with me so much. I've literally, in the last 6 years, I base almost every cool decision that I've ever made based on the 5-second rule. It really, from leaving my corporate job, I remember being in the women's locker room, and you're in the mirror, and you're like, girl, you got this. You're going to resign today. You're going to walk away from this career, and you're going to go forth and be something else. And I remember saying, you got 5 seconds, and then you're walking your booty in there, and you're going to do it.
Right.
And every morning, right, I use this tool. If I don't feel like getting up at 3:45 in the morning, you're like, you got 5 seconds, and then you're getting up, whether or not you want to get up or not. I use the rule with my daughter. I said, girl, you got 5 minutes to complain about this topic, and then we're moving on. And then, of course, my husband, right? He goes, Karissa, you got 5 seconds. I'm tired of hearing about it.
Hopefully you give him more than 5 seconds for a few things, though.
Absolutely, girlfriend. You know it. But yeah, it's a book that has been a part of my life. I've truly adapted, and it's changed the way I think about everything. Good. Anything courageous, I'm like, 5.
Yeah, it's
4,
a great book.
3, 2, 1. And with that, you guys, Clara, what is your favorite book?
Well, unlike you, I love to read ever since I was a kid. When I was in junior high, one of the first books I was introduced to was one called Where the Red Fern Grows.
Right.
And that just sort of started my love for reading. So I'm a voracious reader. From a business perspective, I read one several years ago. It's called 168 Hours by Laura Vanderkamp.
Okay.
And what it did for me is it taught me about time. And how time should be viewed as an investment, because we all have the same amount of time. It's the great equalizer. Nobody gets more time than anybody else. So it really changed the way that I show up and how I invest my time? So if I want to work, but if I only want to work 35 hours a week, how do I want to invest that time to get the highest and best use and my return? So it just really sort of changed the perspective that I've used with a lot of my coaching clients and in a lot of my trainings.
Love that. And who is that by again?
Laura Vanderkamp.
Okay. Totally gonna have to write that one down.
All right, so we're talking self-care today.
Yes.
You know, we're talking about the importance of taking care of ourselves, and I know we're gonna break it down and dive into tips, strategies, and all that good stuff. But let's be honest, one of the best things that we can do for ourselves is laugh.
Right.
You know, life is hard, and sometimes we just take ourselves far
Way
too seriously.
seriously.
So we have got a special guest for our viewers, and we have brought in right here from Omaha a comedian for you. So we're gonna bring it on over to Heather Jones, and she is gonna bring us some laughter.
Hello. Thank you for having me. My name is Heather Jones, and I am from Omaha, and I have 6 children, which is a lot for anybody concerned about overpopulation. And it's really hard to explain nowadays. I'm like, I'm so stoked to be here. Everybody, a lot of people assume a lot about having 6 kids. They assume either like they're all homeschooled and we all wear the same uniform, or you know, like we're all granola and wear the same uniform. You know, like a lot of people assume I'm pro-life. I used to be. I love you too. I'm taking you home with me. I am. I just want to hang out here all day. My husband is the father of all 6 of my children, which usually gets way more applause than the 6 children themselves. It's really interesting. He doesn't actually look anything like me. He looks very, we don't know what he is actually. I think maybe like a little Turkish, but it's very like dark complected and hot and exotic. And then 20 years ago, things took a dive. I say every time we get in a fight now, I'm just like, oh, you just knock it off right now, because I'll get you drunk and drop you off at the hospital. I meant airport. Damn it, I messed that joke up. You guys can cut that. I don't even care. The hospital or do you remember the Safe Haven? Do you remember the Safe Haven when they like released that? They took all, I don't know when it was like 10 years ago, and they like everybody could just take in it. Like people were dropping off their teenagers or like 8. My sister kept getting her husband drunk and dropping him off at the hospital. And they were like, I'm sorry, you can put him in a diaper all you want. He's still a grown man. Can't not do that. I was super excited when our kids were born, because I wanted them to have his like olive complexion, and then it turns out no, they were just all jaundiced. I'm like, son of a bitch. I can't. My family's not prepared for this pandemic at all. I was really like 5 of my kids are allergic to nuts and bee stings. You know. Like it's vulnerable stock. So I was really worried we might make it through this. Before the pandemic, the biggest threat was a picnic. So I'm like triple masking him. It's ironic because one of my kids, he's the one kid who's not allergic to any nuts. The poor kid has to go and like score a PB&J at 3:00 in the morning, 5 blocks away, like he's doing a drug deal, you know. And then he has to come home and take like a full hazmat Silkwood shower because you can't cross contaminate. That's so. Ironically, that kid only has 1 nut. I'm not even kidding. Not even kidding. And I didn't even know. This is the thing. Like when he found out, it was much later than most would. He was like 12, and he was fighting with his brothers, and they were kicking each other. And I was like, testicular health is so important. You got to be careful, especially you, because you only have 1 testicle. And he goes, what? I'm like, oh, damn it, I forgot to tell him. I'm like, this is a little bit on you. How did you not know until now that you were like, Anyway. I had to tell his brothers, I'm like, and I got 2 witnesses. I got to hide bodies. I'm like, oh, crap. I'm like, no jokes. You can't tease your brother. You can't call him one nut wonder. I was spitting him out. And they were like, we would never do that. I'm like, yeah, you would. You're his brother. And they're like, yeah, you're right. So I'm like, no, you can't. And they're like, and then I turned to him. I'm like, and you, if anybody does give you crap, you can just tell everybody you have a bigger schlong than all your brothers. I'll attest to that. I changed your diaper till you were 4. I can just assume it's growing. Like, I haven't looked recently, obviously, but I'm just saying, and if that should be the thing. If you only have one testicle, you should have the biggest schlong in the family. You know, that's just, I think that's a rule. I think that's. My family's from West Virginia, which is fun. I love my family. One of the traditions of my family, like we like to like play cards and gamble, and we like to gamble on each other's lives, which is like, for example, my sister got a divorce recently. Now I owe my mom $100. That's. It's not, and I know it sounds messed up. It's not as though we enjoy making money off each other's misery or anything like that. God forbid my beautiful niece decides to become a stripper by the year 2025. That's going to be like the saddest $3,000 I ever make. I'm lying. I have been trying to rig that bet for years. I started calling her Candy to get her used to the. You know what I mean? I bought her a practice pull and some brass cleaner because I'm not a jerk. It worked because last week she learned how to pick up $1 with her butt. I'm like, yes, she's a ringer. It is scary though. It's scary. I'm always worried about ending up on some viral video or doing something, getting in trouble, being canceled for being a crazy mom. One of my kids got into some alcohol once. Wasn't proud about that. I'm not like, you know, this is what happened. He's 4, you know? So like, it wasn't on purpose. Like, here's the thing. I had all the kids in bed. I was enjoying my reward for the day, which was like a small box of wine. That's as small as they come from Sam's Club. I'm sorry. That's as small. I'll take it. And I poured myself a glass. I step out of the room for like less than 30 seconds, and I come back out, and in that time, my 4-year-old son, that little ADHD ninja, had like snuck downstairs and just started chugging it like mommy does. I was kind of impressed, honestly. But I freaked out, and what you're supposed to do is call Poison Control Center, and I did from a non-traceable cell phone. I'm not stupid. The nurse actually was like super sweet about it. She was like, oh my gosh, relax, have him drink a lot of water. Perhaps you should too. I'm like, back it up. She goes, just watch him for the next couple hours have him drink a lot of water and watch him for any signs of intoxication for like the next 4 to 8 hours. And I'm like, what? He's 4, okay? Like, he already walks funny, talks with a lisp, and tries to grab my tits all the time. I'm not sure how much more drunk this kid is supposed to act. Until, like, finally, like, 2 o'clock in the morning, and he rolls in from the strip club with his buddies. I'm like, you are cut off. Get your ass to bed. That was your cousin, for God's sake. That is it for me, you guys. I'm Heather Jones. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Oh, Heather, that was fantastic. I love to laugh. Thank you.
Seriously.
Good, thank you.
Yeah.
She's got a gift.
She does.
I was rolling.
And I want to talk about that because clearly with 6 children, you have a lot of material at your fingertips. How did you do this? Like, have you always wanted to be a comedian? Did you just wake up one day? How did that happen?
No, ever since I was a kid, like I grew up listening to my dad's comedy albums, and I didn't know until I think I was a teenager, early 20s, that it was, it was not impromptu or extemporaneous. It was worked on material, and then I was like, oh my God, maybe. And then it wasn't until I was like almost 30, and I saw an ad for like Nickelodeon's Funniest Mom in America.
Oh my gosh, I think I remember that.
Yeah, and they had him, and they had all these local satellites, and I thought that's going to be the most sympathetic audience. Everybody's going to be there to support, so you know what I mean. Yeah. So I did that, and then that was like the hook. It was at the Funny Bone, and I just started continuing and going to open mics, and then starting, to host there, and then you just slowly start working more shows and meeting more people. And it's been 13, 14 years.
Wow. So when people say, what do you do? And you say, oh, I'm a comedian. What's the response like?
Do they laugh at
I
you?
know. Or do they say, tell me something funny?
Right. It's tell me a joke, but usually people are like, no, okay. And like my sisters will brag on me, and they say they'll say I'm a comedian, and people are like, oh sure, like they're just like, oh Joe's a comic, and
Yeah.
like so and then she'll go like, no, she's really. So I don't usually I just. I usually just don't talk to a lot of people. Yeah, it's weird because they people are like they don't or right. It seems very it usually just causes more problems than it's.
Yeah. Right. Well, like when someone's like, "Hey, Clara, what do you do?" and you say it, and they're like, "Oh, okay." Whether they know what a business coach or a life coach is, like, they're just like, "Okay, cool." But I think a comedian, we're like, I don't know if that's a real thing.
Right.
Are you joking? Like, who really is a comedian?
I ride a unicycle professionally.
Yeah,
like nobody
and
is
juggle.
gonna.
And
Right.
juggle. So how does your family feel about you using them for material?
Well, we'll find out
We'll
because
find-
I did not clear the Uniball joke with the one kid.
Or the knees, for goodness. I was like, oh yeah, is there a knee?
Yeah.
She's like, hey, I really did learn how to pick up a dollar bill. Oh my, so I am curious, you said you listened to your dad's like,
Comedy collection.
Comedy collection. I didn't even realize there was comedy collection you could listen to. So like, I'm just so out of it.
She's so pretty and young,
I'm
isn't
like,
she?
so, my dad I remember thinking Johnny Carson was like, that's what my dad watched. So like, what were your favorite ones that were old that really just stuck with you?
Oh my gosh. I remember watching like Monty Python was, like on television. That's not necessarily stand up, but like the comedy that kind of, Richard Pryor, some other people that have been Me Too'd and maybe I don't want to mention. But no, we did listen to like a lot of Cosby, and then it was like Eddie Murphy, and then it was, Stephen Wright, and then it was Mark Maron, and then, I'm just kind of going through like as I grew up, the ones that, Greg Giraldo and
All of those
Janine
are
Garofalo.
fantastic. Some of my favorites too.
But they're all males.
I know. Well, Janine
I was like,
Garofalo, you
Janine
mentioned.
Is she
Garofalo,
a
Kathy
female?
Griffin came out around the same
Okay,
time, and I really
okay.
liked her. Joan Rivers,
I also love Kathleen Madigan too.
Yes, Kathleen Madigan. Yeah, I listened to more women as I grew up because I think as a kid my dad didn't buy. There was no women. He wasn't buying Phyllis
sure.
Diller,
Right.
but she's a great one. Phyllis Diller was,
Groundbreaking.
Exactly. I just watched a documentary on Rosemary, and I was like, well, she wasn't necessarily like a stand-up comic, but she was like. She was a comedian and an act, So it's right. It's
It's a male-dominated field, but
Totally.
women are
It's not a
definitely
norm. So if you
stepping
said
into
you were a
it.
comedian, I'd be like, no, what really do you do? I didn't think women could make it
They
as a
can.
comedian.
Women can make it as anything.
know that.
Come
Come on. Yeah,
Let's
I know, but,
go.
like, it is one of those. I mean, I come from collision and cigars, so it's another weird background for women to
Right,
be in.
right.
But I can see why people would just be like, and then you're like, yeah, I just don't want to talk to you.
right.
Thank you.
Right, it's a weird thing to respond to. If somebody says it's almost like it's not like it's strange to claim that as a profession when it seems like you don't need much to claim it as a profession. You could,
Yeah.
you know what I mean. So it's
Yeah.
really like there's no college. You don't graduate. You don't get a doctorate
Where'd you
in
go for
stand-up
that?
comedy. You don't get a
Exactly.
certificate.
Yeah.
You basically just say, so if you have the balls to say, then
So you're a comedian, you're a comedian.
Oh, wow. Well, Heather, thank you so much for, sharing time with us today. It was just incredible to have you here.
you.
The importance of laughter. We have to laugh in life. So for any of you that want to learn more about Heather, you want to catch her if you're in Omaha, maybe she'll be on the road. Again, go to our website, livingrealtv.com, and you can get all of her contact information. Hi, I'm Clara Capano with Capano Speaking and Training, and I am here to get you clarity. As the strategist for the Smart Woman, I've spent over 20 years working with women in business, helping them to recreate what success looks like for them
to get them off that hamster wheel and to get them into running a purpose-driven business. When you work with me, you're going to find real strategies that are going to help you gain immediate traction in both your personal and professional life. So follow me and find out all you need to get you clarity at claracapano.com.
What's up, you guys? We are back talking all about laughter and self-care. Thank you so much for watching The Living Real and being real with us. We hope that we can literally be real with you. Yes. And I hope you appreciate that about this show for sure. But, you know, really when we bring in laughter, we talk about laughter, the underlining key is that it's part of self-care, right? Life is too, Clara mentioned, life's too short. We don't need to be serious all the time, but laughter is the cure. It's the medicine when we're feeling sad and depressed. Like, we have to. I mean, why are all those damn cat videos like so addicting? It's because we laugh, and just like working out, they bring in happy endorphins into our lives. It's a natural high. So we, of course, are here with the amazing Heather, a local comedian here in Omaha, Nebraska, TEDx talker, Nickelodeon mama star. Like, I'm learning so much about her. And it's great to have her with us. But I really want to, we talk a lot about defining, right? Defining success, defining health.
Right.
So I think it's important for us to talk about what is self-care to each of us, because it's not all bubble baths and a glass of wine, ladies, or the box, like Heather said, right? It's not all about that. So, Clara, what does self-care look like for you?
Yeah, I think it's a very valid question because I think everybody defines it differently. Yeah. For me, the way that I define self-care is anything that brings you joy. So yes, it can be the bubble bath. It can be the box of wine. It can be shopping. It could be cooking. It could be working out. I know you had mentioned, working out is a necessity for you, but for some people it is part of their self-care. Right. So I think it doesn't have to be defined as a specific item. Just look at whatever lights you up, look at whatever brings you joy, and make sure you're doing something that brings you joy every day.
I completely agree. It's more about the feeling of whatever you get. Because I mean, don't get me wrong, like working out, I call it my self-care sandwich. So it's the beginning part of that club sandwich. It's the base of any foundation. But it's how I feel, right? You say joy, I say whatever freaking puts a smile on your face, whatever brings you happiness, whether it's your kids. I don't really relate to that one and so much. I mean, I love my babies, but, I love my reading and I love my meditation. And I think it's important for everyone, every woman, to really define what that looks like for them. Like, what is self-care? Really quickly, I'm curious what Heather does for self-care, being a mom of 6 kids. Do you even know what self-care is?
I sleep. I flip and sleep.
I love it. And sleep is
honestly, I take a nap almost every day. When I'm not on the road, I will be taking a nap every day.
That's too funny. You and my husband would go
Love my naps.
Like, he'll come home from work, take a nap, and then go back to work. I'm like, must be nice. It is. Must be nice. I'm just over here working.
So, let's talk about this woman to woman here. We all agree it's important. We know we need to do it. But why don't you think women take time for self-care?
Well, I think it's a lot of guilt. I mean, like, who am I to take self-care? Like, I've just been working. I've been away from my kids. So who gives, me permission to go and now work on myself? That just seems a little crazy, not to mention I don't have time is what I get a lot is.
Right.
Who has time for self-care? Yeah. What is self-care? They don't even know it anymore.
I know.
What about you, Heather?
I think you're dead on. I think it's guilt. I think it's, feeling the responsibility of being a caretaker, that nurture, aspect. And I heard a quote once, and it was like, solace means not asking permission to take it. You just have to take it. That was so freeing when I read that. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I'm leaving through it. I think like shortly after that, I went on a trip with my girlfriend to Kansas City, and I didn't tell anybody until I hit the road. I'm like, by the way, I'm leaving for 3 days. I felt so empowered by that one quote. I'm like, you're right, I'm done. 25 years I've been doing this crap. I've taken a vacation, nobody has to know. You reach that age and you feel like, you can do, I think at this point, like, there's always that responsibility taking, you know, it does seem selfish and stuff, but it doesn't, it's flipping necessary.
It is. And I love that concept because I think a lot of women, again, this idea of it's selfish, you know, and
Right.
I have a family, I have work, and we feel selfish putting ourselves first. And I've really learned to change my mindset. And I see self-care as being one of the most selfless things that I can do, because I can't show up as the mom that I want to be, as the friend, as the business
Coach,
partner, whatever.
speaker, yeah.
I can't show up if I am not full. You know, it's that old adage when you're on the airplane and they say if the oxygen masks fall down,
Right.
whose are you supposed to put on first?
Oh, I'm putting mine
Yours,
on.
so that you can take care of the others.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I think again, it's a program, it's a mindset, and I now see it as a necessity.
I mentioned self-care sandwich, and I try and teach my clients that because it is, and every moment of the day calls for a different act of self-care. I mean, at the end of a stressful day, maybe it is a glass of wine in that hot bubble bath,
Right.
or a shower all by yourself without the kids knocking on a door. I mean, I'm sure you can relate. Like, I just pee, for goodness sakes.
I can't, I'm like, the kids are like old enough now, the dogs are doing it. I'm like, are you flipping kidding me?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Without
Cleo
a dog
will come
barking
put
at
her-
the door.
Her thing right here on my leg. I'm like, excuse me, get out of here, right? So it's like that. I will literally put in that self-care sandwich, and what I mean by, and I mentioned the first layer of bread, right? Like that's my workout, that's my spiritual practice, that's setting my intention for the day. That middle piece is crucial. Like that's that quick minute for me, 5-minute movement, 5-minute meditation midday. Just even like clearing my desk or taking lunch and not working while I, eat lunch. And then the end of the night is always, it's like, okay, it's my downtime. I need it.
Right.
I need that downtime in order for me to show up 100% for everybody else. What are some of your favorite self-care activities?
Yeah. So, there could be a lot. I mentioned that I love to take my naps. I love my naps, and people know that they don't mess with me in my naps. I do really enjoy.
I wonder what happens if
Yeah.
Sarah doesn't go.
It's not a pretty sight. I do really enjoy cooking.
Okay.
I enjoy reading. My happy place is the beach. So I make sure that, every few weeks I am getting out to San Diego to, I say see my family, but let's be honest, it's really about going to the beach. They just happen to be there. So I think just, doing those. But, again, I try really hard every day. And I think another reason where a lot of women don't do it is coming back to the time. They think I have to go work out, and that's going to take an hour and a half, and I don't have an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So that's why, and I know we're going to share today. We're going to share some simple tips to do in under 5 minutes. But I think it's really important, again, just to take at least 5 minutes a day to do something.
But I'm
for you.
calling BS on that, right? I mean, we have to make the time.
Well, let's talk about that. So,
We
what
have
are
to.
some strategies that we could use to do that?
Well, we agree on this one.
We
I know
do
we've
agree
had
on this
100
one.
conversations about this, and we're like, "Are you my sister? Like, did you just read my mind?" We have to schedule it.
We do.
And
it all comes back to being a priority.
It has
you
to be.
have to make it a non-negotiable, and you have to make it a priority. I shared this with you earlier today that one of my favorite quotes is by Stephen Covey. And if you want to know a person's true priorities, look at their bank account and their schedule. So, when people come to me and they say, oh, my family's the most important, or I'm important to myself, and I look at their schedule and there's no time in there, they can start to see it. And a lot of times I'm like, well, why don't you have self-care scheduled? They say, well, why would I do that? My schedule is for my work. And I'm like, no. So I train and teach to, my people, when they put their schedule together, the first thing that goes in their schedule is time for themselves.
Yeah. So a little like a hack, right? Because it's not just like workout. Because for a lot of people, working out, food prepping, that's another task on our to-do list. So I am all about naming things that are very empowering, right? So it's like the workout is not just a workout, because that's boring. Like, we're gonna something we have to do. No, it's like something I get to do. But like my spiritual practice, like I could just put meditation. How boring would that be? But instead, it's like the spiritual practice. My vision board is the intention vision board for the week. Everything is named so strategically so that when I see it in the count, when it goes ding, what am I supposed to be doing? Right? It's like, oh, you're supposed to be filling your bucket right now. Like, it's time to fill the bucket. So it's just like, it's one of those things that I will name everything in my calendar. And you're absolutely right. Like, I send someone a snapshot of my calendar and they're like, are you kidding me? But and because it's from 4 to 6, where we're it's exercise, and from 6:30 it's to shower. Like everything is there
because the things that get scheduled get done.
Are important, but I think it's kind of cool to like know, because it gives me freedom.
Yes. It really
With
does.
structure, I mean, literally, if you looked at my calendar, you'd be like, oh my God, she's probably OCD and I don't want to be your friend. But at the end of the day, it gives me my freedom. It gives me that sense of, I don't even have to guess or make another decision, because let's face it, we make way too many decisions throughout the day. And that takes energy and brain power. And so I feel like when it's already set, like you're like, oh, it's like the rice cooker. You just push go and you just make rice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So scheduling it and putting it is definitely one. Another
100%.
strategy that I've seen work for people is this concept of pairing it. So
Okay.
that
Tell me
you
about
connect it. So let's say, for example, that I want to go for a walk. And I also know that I want to listen to a podcast.
Okay.
I could pair them together.
Okay.
Or if I really enjoy watching TV, I could bring my iPad or watch it while I'm on the treadmill.
Right.
You know, if you have to do a chore, such as maybe laundry, why not pair it with listening to your favorite songs? Because that's self-care.
Sure.
So again, find some things that you can do. So if you are limited on time and you have to leverage your time, bring some things together and, put them in and pair it with something else.
Right. But I also want to just like throw this out there, like ask yourself, why do I feel like I have to be doing multiple things in order to just take this time for self-care?
Well, true, and that's
Right?
the ultimate one. But for those busy women out there that are still struggling,
I get it.
maybe they have 6
I
kids
get
and
it.
they have to do it. But
That's a whole new
it's
level,
better to pair it than not have. Now,
when you've got
granted,
6
she
kids,
might
you just
have,
get them all on board.
Well, she might have had too much self-care to be able to develop 6 kids over there. To be honest.
Right? Too much time. She was having a lot of self-care. That's the wrong episode.
Yes,
That's
it's a whole nother episode. Yeah.
Well, I want to pick your brain. Like,
Yeah.
what do you do besides sleep or sleep, work, and kids? What do you do that brings you joy?
I enjoy watching television. I enjoy spending time with my friends, and that's the thing. Porch time is a big porch. When I'm on my porch with my friend, kids don't. It better be important before you come out here. Family, and that's the thing. I think I spent years trying to schedule, and it worked great until there were too many unknowns to schedule, and then I realized I had to schedule for the unknown. So then it's scheduling for like 5 hours when you're like, I'm just on standby. I feel like a firefighter. I'm like ready for it to go. But I think when I learned to do that and like not try to push everything into, I'm the kind that was always trying to be like how long Google told you it would take to get somewhere. I'm like, 6 hours, I can make it in 5.5.
I'm gonna push it.
I gotta beat my time. Right, exactly. And I think I did that with everything until, you're like, I've created too many people for that to happen. I have to schedule for the unknown because
Right.
there's always something happening, and it seems like at night, I'm the one that if somebody has an allergic reaction, I'm the one that's taken them to the hospital at 1 in the morning so my husband can sleep, but for so many years, I've learned to push back and say, honey, you need to be the one to deal with school information. I'm too neurotic to deal with teachers, and you know what I mean? Like I have such respect for teachers and educators.
Yes.
And I feel like the best thing I can do is just remove myself from the equation. You know what I mean? Like that was so much like oh my gosh, I don't even know what to say. And so it really makes you clearly define what you're capable of and what you're not. Yeah.
It's so true. Yeah. And then, another one that I think can be a helpful strategy for people trying to do self-care is there's power in accountability. So maybe get a buddy. Get a buddy not just as an accountability partner to say, did you do it? Okay, no. So let's go back back. You talked about one of the things you enjoy doing is hanging out with your friends. That's
You're
a buddy.
right. That is,
know?
yes.
So,
and I feel like with her, I am. Polly, by the way, she's my best friend.
We love you,
her to
Polly.
death. I do. She's right, and she more so than my husband. I feel like she, you know what I mean? You're
She's
like
your
that
advocate.
girlfriend that gets you more than you.
See?
Yeah.
Right? You know?
And that's what I'm talking about. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean the accountability as far as they're pulling you out of bed to go work out, which could be the situation.
But they'll call
which
you on
were
your
ready
BS.
To do to me.
Yeah.
But they also, I may say I want to go for a hike, and maybe I go with a buddy. So
Yeah.
yes, it's a hike, but I can also make it enjoyable because I can do it with somebody else. Again,
Yeah.
maybe if I want to take a yoga class, but I'm intimidated because I've never gone to a yoga class, maybe going with somebody else will make it more enjoyable. So if doing these things is hard to do on your own, or you're finding, again, time, I do a lot of things. If I want to go for a walk or go to the dog park, I like to be able to bring a friend with me because I can then talk with them and get the connection that I need at the same time.
And
Yeah.
it goes back to that connection piece where it's like, I feel like laughter brings that back. So when you are with a friend, you know, I don't know, like my brother and my best friend, they are so hilarious. Like, they are so fun. I do a full freaking ab workout when they are in the room together. They feed off each other. And I'm like, what just happened to me? Like, stop. Like, I'm begging them. But like, so get the buddy, go out and do those fun things because we need to. It is not selfish to go out and take care of yourself.
It is not. Again, you've got to keep yourself full and in a place of joy.
Right.
So let's talk about 5 minutes or less. If you only had 5 minutes, what's something that you feel you could do in 5 minutes to bring you joy?
To bring me joy. Well, I have to go back to the breathing when I'm feeling stressed, overwhelmed, when I'm feeling pissed off in the car because someone in front of me is just too dang slow. I'm like, just breathe.
Yeah.
Just stop and breathe. Like, if we could all just practice that here for a minute, just taking a big deep breath.
Okay. It does. It slows you down. It centers you, and that's something that you can
gets
do
to our brain.
at any time during the day. So
Literally 5 minutes or less. You can not
Definitely.
tell me that you cannot take a minute to breathe.
absolutely.
It's the biggest thing for me.
And again, those small pieces of self-care. Anything that you think of that you can do in 5 minutes or less.
Breathing, and like I'll pump up like a good music.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like a good song, Guster or Sophie Tucker. Anything that will, I feel like I need to name drop better.
You're fine.
You're good.
It's just the last ones that I've been playing,
Yeah.
the ones that really get you in
Yes.
a mood,
It is.
Can you
Again,
think
it's that
of one
movement.
specific song that just changes your whole mindset, your whole attitude?
Oh my gosh. There's this band called I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, Outward, and they're from South Africa, and they have like Fatty Fatty Boom Boom.
Okay, we're gonna have to find that.
And it just totally takes you, it's like,
You
listen.
can't help but be like in the fatty. I love it. Like, and I'm like, let's Google that. Like, let's find it right now.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
my God. What
yeah,
about?
the video will kind of wreck you a little bit, but like the song itself, every time I'll put it on, the kids are like, "No, what are you doing?" It's one of those that just completely changes, and just like it's like a little bit, like electroshock therapy a little bit.
Yeah.
I listened to Tangled 1,000 times. You're gonna listen to mine now.
Exactly.
Come on.
Exactly.
I love, music is next to laughter. I feel like music is just something else that touches your soul.
It
So
does.
what's
It
your?
can soothe you. It can
Yes.
energize you all
Yeah.
days. I would say from a fun standpoint, I love comedy. So I am always listening to like the comedy channel if I'm in
Okay.
the car and I have that, going. So if I just need something quick in between, I might do that. But going back to the idea of self-care and reading, even if I'm busy, I always try to just read maybe 5 pages, and at least it's something to feed my mind and just kind of take me out of what I'm doing and give me that energy back.
Yeah, I think when COVID hit, I think the real thing that kept my sanity and like a sense of self-care is I got up every day and I literally got dressed You know, like all these women are like, I kind of like yoga pants and attending meetings. And I'm like, I would feel like a slob. And I wear yoga pants all the time. Trust me, I'm a fitness, you know, like I'm a junkie when it comes to fitness.
You know, yeah.
But every single day, and the clothes is one thing for me, I could wear whatever. But for me, it was my makeup. I had to put effort into my life. You know, I just felt like, I'm like, okay, I don't care if nobody sees me in person or not. I went from networking meetings to Zoom meetings, and I was like, I'm gonna get dressed, damn it, I gotta look good.
Yeah, and
I don't
for
care.
me, it goes back to energy. And again, you know, when I feel energized, I feel more joyful, and that's something. So I would agree, you know, there are some days where it's like, a great shower. You know, you don't have to be in there for 20, 30 minutes, but just, you know, going in there and doing that, or, you know, applying just a little bit of mascara. But again, something to be able to do that. But I don't think we need to overcomplicate it. And I think that's the biggest challenge that women have, is they think it has to be something big or
expensive.
Or expensive.
Yeah.
And, you know, going back to, again, anything that brings you joy. So,
Yeah,
you know.
because it's not my nails and my hair, because that to me is a task. It's those other things that I can tap into feelings with, and I'm just like, ooh, I need more of this in my life. You know, like make your I was gonna say make your toes curl, but that might be the next episode.
Exactly. But you know, I want to talk about this idea of self-care, and another thing that really brought me to the importance of it is the obligation I have as a role model. You know, to my son and to other people around me, and you know, because we teach people how to respond by how we respond to us. So have you even seen, like, what are some things you do maybe with your kids to instill the idea of self-care?
I will try to do one-on-ones with them, you know, like take them, you know, I did a show last week in Shenzhen, Kansas.
Say that after
Kansas. Yeah, I took some of the kids with me. So, you know, I'm supposed to go on like a weekend date with one of the other. So and if it's just local, then we go for drives, you know, and it's just, right. They need to see me relax, because it's not, the one thing about the 6 kids is, like, if you're in a crappy mood, they'll let you know that they don't appreciate it.
That they
Right
don't.
away.
Right.
But I think that conditioning is really important, because it's like, really, what are we showing our kids when
Right,
we're not
right,
taking
right,
care of
right.
ourselves? Like, so my mom, yes, all I remember her is the working mom, right? The hustler, the boss babe, who pushed through anything, who made, you know, crap into gold at the end of the day. But really, what did she teach? She taught me very bad boundaries, and very, you know, I'm like, I've learned to, like, take my hustle and use it as a tool.
Yeah.
But it no longer defines me now. We've talked in the past about how we've become workaholics, us women. We're career driven. We love our work just as much as we love our kids.
Yep.
Don't make me choose, for goodness sakes. I might not choose the one you want to hear. Some days, like anything, but yeah, I'm like, she installed that, and it's such a beautiful trait when she was, you know, and I say she passed, and I truly believe that zero self-care is what killed her. I mean, she took no time for her. She gave every bit of her to everyone else.
Right.
And that is, I didn't realize when she was alive what that was teaching me.
Right.
Yeah.
And I thought that created my worth. And now I'm like, what am I teaching my daughter when she said, I just want to be a doctor and work all the time? It was kind of like the jaw-dropping moment where I was like, I don't want that for you. I actually don't want you slaving away working when life should be fun. You know, so I'm like, okay, I got to change my strategy here, because I'm clearly just like my mom. I mean, have you felt like that?
I have, and that is honestly one of the biggest reasons I went into being an entrepreneur, is so I could really get back to being, again, more in control. And don't get me wrong, I still work a lot. You know, I love what I do, but I am able to, you know, kind of turn it off and on when I need to. You know, I can take a couple hours off in the middle of the day. You know,
and not feel guilty?
And not feel guilty to take my nap. You know, I could work. I know for me, I'm more focused in the morning, so I can get up and do things earlier, but then be done by 1 or 2, so I could go pick Nicholas up from school or go do some things in the afternoon. So you can kind of learn, but I was on that hamster wheel too. And I wasn't having time, you know, to do these things. I remember when I was in management, I would leave during the afternoon a couple days a week and go to yoga. And I would get a lot of, well, where are you going? Look at you. Oh, you're taking an extended lunch. And I was like, oh, no. You need me to go to yoga. You need me to go and do that. I do that for all of you, you know. But it was, you know, again, it was that dynamic of, well, where are you going? And it didn't matter that I was there an hour before them or staying an hour after them. They took it as, I'm taking an extended lunch. And, you know, we have to really just change those thought processes.
I think a lot of women want to start a business for that sense of freedom and that flexibility, but we don't know how to balance out the hustler and the mother and the wife, and that's where that time scheduling in is so critical. It's because that business will run you ragged and worse than your job.
And it doesn't have to. I think the you know, the shift is, they think that if they're starting a business, and don't get me wrong, your first couple years, you're going to work a lot harder and hustle in your first few years, but it doesn't mean that it's 24/7. And I think that would be a lesson I would share to, you know, any women out there is, start today, start small, you know, with small boundaries, you know, again, that 5 minutes a day, but really start to work on putting it all together.
And I've noticed that with, you know, you, like, I felt that pull when you're in a meeting and you can see your kid calling and you're like, should I just go? Where you have been like, you just stop mid conversation because again your priorities are straight, and you're like, hold please, you know, like let me speak to my son because he is the important part. Like that's why we are entrepreneurs.
Oh my God! You know, I was complaining about being pinged. Because all the kids, 6 kids were all on the stairs, and they can't find you, they'll ping you. And you're like, ping, ping, and I'm like, oh. But I remember my mom, who worked for the phone company in the 80s, and we would pager. We would pager if we had a fight. You know, we were like latchkey kids, and we would if we got in a fight, we would pager to call us. And we did the same thing to our mom. And setting those boundaries with your own children. And especially with everybody can communicate with you at the you know,
drop of a button.
Drop of a button. And if you're not responding back, then, you know.
Heaven forbid. We can't get our kids to answer us like that. But no. If they're in the drive-through line and they don't have the money and they're like,
I know. Right? I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, this has just been an amazing conversation. Again, thank you for being here with us and, you know, sharing your insights, sharing your laughter. You know, again, just hitting the main points that self-care is not selfish. It is one of the most selfless things that we can do so that we can show up as the best version of ourselves. So for you viewers out there, thank you so much for watching today's episode. We really hope that it inspired you to take action in your real life. We wish you so much joy, abundance, and happiness. And remember, you can catch all of the episodes on motivationandsuccesstv.com. Until next time, keep living real.